Welcome along to this episode of the Grown Up Business Podcast. And this is a rarity, actually. This is different. We haven't done this before. I've brought one of my team in to have a conversation with me today. So super excited to have this conversation because this person's had a profound impact on my life, my productivity, and has really helped bring the whole Team Purple to another level of performance, I think, since you've been a part of it. So, let me formally introduce Nicola to all of you. Some of you might have known Nicola, some of you won't. Nicola has a 25-year background in senior leadership roles, construction particularly, and heavily in operations, regularly running teams that deliver projects between 10 and 50 million pounds was your background. The biggest team you ever ran at one point was 130 people. That's a lot. Before exiting the corporate world to go into a franchise and then meet me and then go back into the corporate world. Sorry if I drove you that way. And then join us in the last, it was about a year ago. I think it was over a year ago, right? You've also got an extensive background in recruitment, sales teams in particular, which you've run, turning over millions and millions of pounds and how to manage them and grow them. So if that's something that people want to know about, this podcast is going to be interesting around that. And you are absolutely passionate about helping entrepreneurs and CEOs build the team of the future.
Yes.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's great. We've been talking about doing this for a while. It's just never got around to doing it.
You keep me too busy, see?
Well, we both have a lot going on.
We do have a lot going on. No, it's lovely to be here.
So I want to jump right in, I think, and really kind of ask you what it is you think. Why do most founders that you're working with for, through the work you do with Capacity to Grow, which is your own brand, and the things you're doing within the Grown Up Business community, what is it that you see founders getting stuck in? What is it that you are observing, and what are the things that seem to be a pattern that you're seeing?
I think that, and I think I'm guilty of this as well. I think all of us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we tend to have a bit of a trust issue. We tend to.
Oh, we're going there already.
We're going there. Yeah.
Enough.
And I think that we started something potentially from scratch, where it was just us. We were a team of one.
Yeah.
We grow our businesses. We bring people on board. We bring people into our teams. Maybe on a freelance capacity. Maybe we employ them. Our teams grow. But we can't quite let go of that control because it's our baby. It's something we've created from scratch, something we really care about passionately. It's something that is really important to us, and something we do not want to see fail, because I think that's the key thing, really. If you're brave enough to start off on your own, if you're brave enough to run your own business, then you're not somebody that accepts failure easily. You're somebody that's competitive. You're somebody that wants to win. And we all have different ways of winning. We can win nicely. We can win, aggressively. We certainly can. But I think when we start our own businesses, we care passionately about what we're doing. It's something that we care about. If our business is succeeding, if our business is growing, then we're doing it well.
Yeah.
And then when you bring somebody else into your team, somebody else into your business that you then delegate responsibilities to, you have to trust them. And they can be the best team in the world. But actually, the trust starts with you. You have to be brave enough to let somebody else in. And to let somebody else in, you need to be able to communicate and share with your team what it is you want them to do.
Right.
So that requires communication.
Yeah.
And I think what I see a lot of is business owners who can't quite let go. They know that they need to let go. They know that they ought to let go.
Yeah.
They know who to let go to and what to let go, even most of the time. But it's the actual being brave enough to let go. And there's a lot of things in business where you have to be brave. And that is one of the things you have to be the most brave about. Because if you let go, you let somebody else into your business, you trust them to do something for you, you have to accept that probably they're not going to do it the same way that you'll do it.
Yeah.
They may not even do it to
the way you do it.
Yeah, or the way you do it, or 100% as good as you.
Yep.
But actually, most of the time, 80% is good enough.
Yeah.
Because we set ourselves and our standards to be incredibly high, and actually, nobody else potentially knows how you would have done it, as long as the end result is what you need it to be.
Yeah.
And they do it with the same values that you hold.
That's true, but I also think that's hard if. So this is my take on it, right? I think trust comes from people getting results,
Yes.
if especially it depends on your profile, right? So it depends on your contribution company's profile and stuff. But if you're somebody who's driven by results, you trust people if they get results.
Yes.
That's definitely true. But I think there's a significance piece. If you have 90% of businesses, if you haven't raised capital, if you haven't raised investment capital, which means you can hire from day one, and I've done both, and that's a lot easier because then you don't get sucked into doing things.
Yeah.
So you can literally delegate day one, so you don't get to get good at stuff because you just give it to other people that you've hired.
Yeah.
But if you haven't done that, then you're on a journey where you've probably done everything. So on some level, you have a belief that you're the best person for the job because you've done it.
And you probably are.
And you probably are at that point.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where that becomes the constraint on growth.
Yes.
And the reality is there has to be a fundamental shift in I think it's fundamentally you have to realize that, I've often said, look, you got to let go to grow, but let go of what?
Yes.
And then I also think most founders and CEOs have never been taught how to delegate.
Yes.
Or how to set people up to be successful with what you're asking them to. So they're not getting any metrics, they're not getting any reporting back. They just kind of do what I call drive-by delegation.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is like walk past someone's desk and go, oh, can you just do this for me? And then keep walking. The poor person looks around and goes, what did they say? What do they want me to do? And it's like they weren't properly briefed. They weren't properly given a plan. They didn't have the details. They didn't have the resources. And then when you come back 2 days later and you go, how are you getting on with it? They're like, well, I haven't done anything with it yet. And immediately the trust gets broken at that point because in your head as a founder or a CEO, you delegated it.
Yeah.
Whereas you didn't actually.
No.
What you did was dump it. You didn't delegate it. You dumped it on somebody.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have the clarity and the certainty of what you wanted, they probably didn't do something with it because they were like, well, I don't want to get it wrong.
No.
So I'm just going to do nothing until he or she comes back, and then I get a chance to try and get some clarity on it. And I think that becomes that. I think a lot of this stems from the fact that entrepreneurs are just always in a hurry to get to the next thing.
Yes.
And I think part of becoming a grown-up leader, which is I think a part of building a grown-up business, is you have to learn to slow down. You have to learn to take the time to properly train people, to delegate people, and you got to learn to slow down.
Yeah.
And I think speed is a massively beneficial asset when you're young, when you're startup, when you're scaling, when you're probably getting to anywhere between 3 and 5 million. Beyond that, speed is now becomes the biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
Because a £5 million business cannot operate like a £500,000 business.
Yeah.
You'll crash it. And I think that's why I think because people don't know how to break the habit, and I think it is a habit. If it's taking you, let's use a couple of people we know, if it's taking you 10 years to get to 5 million, there's a subconscious part of your brain that is terrified of what I don't want to go back to being £1 million again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and have a finger in all these pies.
Yeah.
And I think that's trust is something that you have to trust other people first. And it's something I've struggled for ages. I also think people have trust issues in their own personal life, which then transfer into their business.
Yep. And you have to trust yourself first as well.
Right.
So I think, there's plenty of CEOs that, we both know who appear confident, who appear to have all their ducks in a row, who appear to have a solid business and to know the direction they're going in, to those on the outside and perhaps to their team. But actually, when you have a conversation with them on a one-to-one basis, they'll readily admit to you, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just winging it. It's done well for me so far. I've got to this point. Yep. I want to take it further, but I don't know what I'm doing. Help me.
Yeah.
And I think so. I think the trust starts with you first. Is like trusting your own abilities, trusting that what you want to achieve is achievable, and then learning to let people in and trusting them as well to deliver it. And you were talking then about how the dump and run sort of scenario where you walk past and you say, could you just? I've heard that so many times. Could you just? But can you just? Okay, fine. Works when you're $1 million, as you say. But it's how you want somebody to do something as well. It's like, can you just do this for me? If that person did attempt to do that for you, but they didn't have direction, they didn't have guidance, they didn't have boundaries, they didn't have, they didn't have a system to work within, they'll do it the way they think's best. Now, that might not be the way that you think it's best. So then it comes back to you and you're like, well, that's not what I wanted. And then you're frustrated and you've lost time and you're, that becomes a bad experience for everybody involved, and then you don't repeat it. Whereas actually, if you just stopped, slowed down, like you said, give clear guidance in the first place, give clear instructions. This is what I want to achieve, and this is why. The why is really important, because otherwise you're not working towards the same goal.
True.
It's the goal that you think you are. Yeah.
It's alignment on why this is important.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the outcome of what we're trying to achieve, then you're in a better position to start with in the first place then. Yeah. So you have more chance of success. But
So it's trust in your experience, and you've had some pretty big teams, right? Mm-hmm. So is trust a byproduct of good communication?
I think that probably yes. I think you have to have the right people in the team in the first place.
Right.
And then to trust those people to then deliver, that's communication. And if I think about some of the construction projects I've delivered in the past, multi-million-pound projects with lots of different variables, lots of things that could go wrong, that sometimes did go wrong. You have to have the team you can trust. So by that, I mean they need to have the right skill set, the right attitude, the right values. So you need those in the first place. But unless you're all aware of the project plan that you're working towards, what the outcome is, what the key dates, key milestones are, then you could all be going off in separate directions. You need to know the direction you're going on together and the goal you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, but there's about three things there. Well, there's more than that. But I think if you go back for a second, first of all, that assumes that the owner is good at recruitment.
Yes.
Point number one. Point number two, that they have checked for alignment on values, skills, those kind of things. And my experience is most owners kind of do one or two interviews and go, yeah, you seem like you'll work out. You seem like you fit. Or we're in a desperate hurry and you're the first person who's responded and you seem good enough. So yeah, great. Or you're a friend of someone who works here. So sure, let's do that. I think a lot of that stems from the fact that, corporates have a recruitment process, don't they, to some extent, right? Like they'll have, Graham talked about it on the podcast before about this, there's 7 different types of interviewing or things like that. And it's like, actually, most of the teams that you and I are coming across have organically been built, not strategically been built.
Yes.
And I think that's what causes some of the issue, is that people haven't sat down and went, right, for this level of growth and the level of growth I want to go to, this is the skill set I need on the team.
Yep.
And I'm going to spend time properly designing a process and then properly interviewing people to find the right person. I had a really interesting conversation with somebody who runs a business, really interesting business that recruits salespeople and manages them all for companies. So they manage them all, and then, you pay them a fee for managing them all. So basically, like fractional kind of sales management. And he was telling me a stat that really kind of blew my mind. He said, on average, most people interview between 3 and 5 salespeople per hire.
Okay.
Right? And he said, we interview 35 per hire. And he said, so we understand that to find a good salesperson, you have to see a lot of poor candidates, whereas most people go like 1 in 5. That was his metrics. I mean, I might be off a bit, but it was just like he's like, we do this all day long, and we are interviewing a lot of people, and most of them, they know sales, but that's different between being good at it and knowing it.
Yeah.
And I think most trust issues start because people's recruitment process is lousy.
Yeah. And I think that starts before you even start recruiting, and that's actually defining the role that it is that you need to fill.
Yeah.
And I think and then that comes back to, what is the purpose of this business?
Right.
What are the key roles within this business? What's the end goal? It's sort of starting at that granular level, isn't it? And understanding, okay, so this is the structure we need. These are the roles we need to deliver this, and almost planning for the future as well when you recruit. Because I think that there's if you have an immediate need, I need a salesperson, or we need an office manager, let's just get one.
Yeah.
Have you actually stopped to think? And yes, you can just go get one. Why not? Go for it. It might work out. It might not. Who knows?
Yeah, but that's like spinning the wheel in a casino and going, I hope it lands on black. It's like, well, and black 22 would be great. Yeah, but odds are not likely that that's going to work out.
Or you're going to recruit somebody who's really good into a role that you don't actually need, and then you don't want to lose that person because it's a good person. But you've got a person in a role that's like, it's not really what we need right now, but they're a good person, so we'll just keep them. And you end up building a team around people that aren't really the right fit for the tip of the business.
That's true.
And I think it's about understanding kind of, what's your ideal structure? Okay, so maybe you're not going to recruit everybody into every role now, but what is it that the ideal looks like? What is it you're working towards? You've got a business plan. What do you need? Who do you need in those
There's an
holes?
assumption built in there
Well,
that
that's
most people are
true.
running
That's
around with a
true.
business
You
plan.
should have a business plan.
Well, you should,
or
see,
you should have a
strategy.
a strategy.
I
Yeah.
don't like business plan
No.
because I think
Okay.
it becomes lumped in with a category of really useless documents you'll never look at and never do again.
No, that's fair.
But I do think, especially if you start to get to the 1, 3, 5 million, you need to be super clear on strategy.
Yes.
Because you're not going to get alignment from the team unless you're clear on strategy. And I think it's very hard to trust people to execute a plan if there isn't a plan.
Yes.
Because all you're asking them to do is execute tasks.
Yes.
And that's not, I mean, that can work to a degree, but what's your measuring stick? It's what are we measuring? Are you measuring whether they got 3 things done today, or are we measuring whether we hit the quarterly sales target or the margin or profit target?
Yeah.
Just back up for a second around the trust piece. Because obviously you and I, we've heard this expression, we've been using it with clients as well, that there is a trust recession at the minute.
Yes.
Like nobody trusts anybody, right?
Yep.
And I think some of that is definitely filtering into organizations and companies. So what do you think are 2 or 3 things that somebody listening to this podcast could do to start to rebuild trust with their team?
I think I would say start by sitting down and having a conversation with your team. When was the last time you had a one-to-one with your team? And that doesn't mean you had a quick call on the way home in the car. It doesn't mean you just had a quick coffee and a chat.
Office, that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't mean you had a 5-minute conversation at the end of a meeting. It means actual dedicated time where you knew you were coming to a one-to-one, so you could prep for it, and you spend time actually listening to each other. And listening is as important as speaking, as we both know. And I think I would start with the one-to-one and understanding, sharing and hearing. So you both on the same page, hopefully. And you're hearing the frustrations, you're hearing the aspirations, you're hearing the goals, you're hearing the challenges from your individual team members, and you're sharing yours as well. You're sharing the direction you want the business to go on. You're sharing your feedback to that person. We all need feedback. How do we get better if we don't know what we're doing well?
Yeah.
And I think it starts with the one-to-one, and that's where it's a safe space, and that's where you start to build trust. And I think that's really important, and they need to happen regularly. Because,
that was going to say, what frequency would you be doing?
I'd say quarterly.
Right.
If there's something more challenging happening, or if somebody's new to a role, then perhaps more regularly than that, but certainly quarterly one-to-ones that you have actual dedicated time that is for you to have that conversation, and it's protected time, and it's a safe space, are really, really key. Where you have those really in-depth conversations that matter and can really form what the next quarter is going to be. And the one thing I would say on one-to-ones is, once you've put a one-to-one in with somebody, do not cancel it.
Yeah, totally.
If something really bad's happened in your personal life,
unless somebody died,
exactly.
Literally, unless that happened, don't cancel it.
Don't cancel it. It's really important to prioritize it. If you're as a busy CEO, busy MD, you might think, I really haven't got time for this right now. I'm going to need to move that. You need to think about how the other person's feeling. They've waited all quarter to have their dedicated hour with you.
Yeah.
They've probably prepped for it. Depending on your profile, some people might feel quite stressed about it.
Yeah, totally.
Some people might feel excited by it. And then all of a sudden you're saying, actually, what you're saying is, you're not important right now. Yeah. And then how do you feel then? Deflated?
Well, trust is done.
And dented,
you've just massively damaged the trust, because
absolutely
they had time you had committed to them.
Yes.
That's a promise. You'd made a promise and you broke it.
Yeah.
And if you can't keep that promise, why should I trust anything else you tell me otherwise, right?
Yes.
And I think trust is something that I think most founders and CEOs, they don't trust other people because I think they don't trust themselves first. And
I would agree.
They make promises to themselves they don't keep. They make promises to their team that they say in the moment and they mean in the moment. And God knows I've done this enough times where I go, yeah, well, of course we'll do that. And then, something in my head that is more important comes up. And that's a great example of a sort of not a grown-up leadership moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, oh, yeah, well, let's do that. It's more important, or it's sales, or it's revenue, whatever, and we'll do that. And I think that's where trust breaks down. And if you don't trust yourself, then when you delegate to other people, you don't trust them because you're going, yeah, I don't trust that I follow through on stuff I tell myself I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I think you have to start. A large part of this is about starting to keep your own promises.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
To the ones you make to yourself, but also the ones you make to the team.
Yes. I think as well as, as business owners, we have a habit of over-promising. that, we
If
kind
you've
of,
got a lot of activating
Yeah.
energy, definitely. Yes.
absolutely. And, yes,
100%.
we'll mean to do something.
Yeah.
And when, and then when you don't, the impact on your team who are looking to you for leadership, looking to you for guidance,
Yeah.
that's kind of, it leaves quite a bit of a dent, really. And when you're a smaller business, when you're, working up to that £1 million mark, maybe, you're a small enough team that you're communicating every day, and you maybe think that it's not so important then, perhaps. It is, I would say it's always important, but certainly once you get to the point where you're becoming really busy and you're not as accessible, and the conversations you're having are just quick, could you just,
Yeah.
where's the quality conversations happening? And the things that come out of those one-to-ones are powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
Really powerful. They can really change the direction of a business. Did you know that this is happening? Did you know that this isn't happening? Did you know that this is a great opportunity? The things you can get out of an hour's long one-to-one can really have an impact on the next quarter in your business, if not longer.
So, okay. So number one then of the three I asked you for, number one was like scheduling one-to-one time.
Yep.
Which I think a lot of kind of CEOs find hard because it's not naturally a flow activity.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
And I think that's why it's not exciting, or it doesn't feel exciting. The story could be.
It feels heavy.
Yeah.
Potentially,
It does.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, and I think, and when you're used to, doing everything at speed,
Yep.
or being, having so much on your plate that you don't have a spare hour in your day,
Yeah.
or all of a sudden you think, oh gosh, I've got to sit and do this. As much as I really like this person, as much as I really value this person in my team, God, I've got to sit down for an hour now and listen, and oh gosh, I've got all these things to do. But actually, you really do have to. That's where discipline comes in. You've got to be disciplined.
Yeah, I think it's a choice. I think you get to choose to go, I see this as investing in the team and the relationship.
Yeah.
Or as I see this as a chore.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will tell you a funny story about, I was running a team dynamics workshop, and there was a CEO in the room of a company, and she was a champion profile.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what's the one thing, everyone had to write down, what's the one thing they don't like doing, the low flow activity? And she said, I absolutely hate doing one-to-ones with a passion.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, champions generally find that really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, like, how many are you doing? She goes, I have to do 40 every quarter. And I was like, oh my God.
Well,
Yeah, that's
a structure issue.
Not good. That's not good. That's not going to work. And she was like, no. I said, right, okay, like, you need to hire somebody to, be the COO, because you're clearly missing a COO who should be doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's not your flow at all. And like, you maybe for 3 or 4 max.
Yes.
Not 40.
Yeah.
Like she was like, honestly, I'd rather stick needles in my eyes and do 40 one-to-ones. I was like, yeah,
I think most people would, right?
I think I can understand that, especially as that, that profile, yeah. But I do think there's, like you say, sometimes if it's not your flow, then it's a structural issue.
Yeah.
So like, okay, great. So one-to-ones or giving people quality time, blocks time in the diary to listen and talk to. Okay, that's number one. What would be number two?
Well, I think you've hit on it there, really. Structure. That's really important. You absolutely shouldn't have 40 people reporting directly into you.
Right.
So what was your structure?
So let's take us back to your career for a bit, right? So you were a Porter Cabin.
Yes.
And before that, you were
Pickering's.
Right.
And before that,
Okay, so what size team were you running in those roles?
So if I take the last team I had,
right,
I looked after the whole of the north of the country.
Okay,
and that's probably about 130 people, plus then subcontractors, etc. And I had a commercial team, had an operations team, had a project delivery team.
Right.
And so they all had their different roles in the business, but they were all required to work together to deliver results.
Right.
And so from that, I had separate depots.
Yep.
And so each depot would have a depot manager.
Yep.
And they had their own teams within their teams. So my direct reports were the depot managers, was head of projects, was, can't even think now, but yeah, so the heads of would report into me. And I think when you look at any business, really, that's what you kind of, as you start to grow, should be aspiring to have that kind of structure. Now, that's not to mean you're going to wake up one morning and have the whole structure in place.
No.
You probably start off with just you, and then you've got probably an EA or a business manager, maybe then you've got an ops person, maybe then you've got a salesperson. But as that grows, you get to the point then where you really should be having heads of or directors of, and then they have their own teams within you, beneath them. And because the other thing that's really important when you have structure and having clear people responsible for commercial operations, project delivery, maybe manufacturing, depending on your business model, obviously what your business is is you need to think about succession planning as well. So, it's very rare these days that people come into a business, stay in the business for the whole of their career.
Well, yeah, I think the times people are in a business now is becoming shorter. I think I
Yeah.
saw a survey
Yep.
fairly recently that it's about 14 months most people stick around.
Right.
Just
doesn't surprise me.
Just because certainly the next generation coming through, they want the experience, they want to change and have different experiences. And the whole model of you stay with one company for life and all that gone. And I think people are now going, no, I'm going to have 4 or 5, 6 different jobs because I want to try different stuff and I want to see what I like and I don't like. Yeah, I think that mindset of I'm bringing somebody and they're going to be with me for 5 years, you've got to have, I think, an ability to see that there's going to be a level of turnover in any team, whatever size it is. And I think if you aren't thinking about that and what's our strategy for that, obviously, do everything you can to mitigate people leaving unless they're loving it. If they're loving their role, they'll stay. But I still think you got to realize that even if you've only got 10% turnover in a team, that's kind of fairly normal. And sales teams is more than that.
Absolutely. People are ambitious.
Yeah.
And when you're starting out and maybe, you can't afford to perhaps hire a director level person. You've got somebody that's kind of early career, mid career.
Yep.
They're ambitious and they want to climb. And when you're running a business, depending on the size of your business, you may not have those roles for them to progress into. So, but some people might come. They'll stay with you for a few years. They'll learn lots. They'll massively help your business, and then they'll move on for the next role. And then maybe they'll come back to you in the future. That happens more and more often these days, I see.
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly I've done it myself.
Yeah.
And I think that, really, when you're recruiting, when you're putting structures in place, you need to think about, this is what my ideal structure is. This is what I need right now. And if I recruit somebody into this role here, let's say I'm recruiting a sales manager, hopefully they're going to progress and become a sales director one day. And that's the journey that I want to take them on. That's the journey the business wants to take them on. And I think it's about having that foresight when you're recruiting people that either have skills that you can use in another way as the business grows, or you invest in them and you train them. And whether that's you yourself, whether you external
or
training,
the company,
so you need to invest in your team and develop them. And you need to do that to yourself as well.
Oh, yeah. I remember having a conversation with a gentleman who was the head of I think it was about a 30-odd million pound turnover business. And he was very proudly telling me about how, they're investors in people, which is awesome, and how much money they spent training the whole team and all of this kind of stuff. And I was like, brilliant, amazing, fantastic. And I just asked him, I said, well, so you're CEO of this company. I said, how much have you spent training you in the last 2 years? And he just looked at me blankly, and I was like, well, as an organization, you really believe in developing your people. So what about you?
Yeah.
And he was like, I haven't spent any money on any personal development or any business development or skills development for me at all. And he was almost he was a little bit embarrassed, but he was also a little bit shocked that he was like, oh, how did I miss that out almost for myself? And I think it's easy sometimes to go, well, I've got to invest in everyone else, but actually, you got to think about your own skill set as a leader. If you want the business to level up, you're going to need to level up that's why we talk about the grown up business framework being level up yourself as a leader first, then you bring on the right team. So you get the right team dynamics and you team up with the right people, and then you scale up the sales after that. But it is that actually, look, I think some of this is about doing a self audit as well. Go, right, that's why I'm a big fan of 360s. I know we've started doing that recently with clients where you'll interview their senior leadership team and give them an honest 360 feedback.
Yep.
And I think there's a part of that which is, some people go, I don't know if I want to know. And I'm like, if you don't know how you're coming off, you can't change, right? You can't fix, you can't try and improve. And if you're not sitting down and thinking, okay, how do I need to get better as a CEO? How do I need to get better as a leader right now? What's the team's real experience? It's no different from asking for customer feedback, is it really? Yeah. It's no different. They are essentially customers of the business in the sense that they're giving you their time in exchange for money. Wouldn't it be good for you to do a survey or check in with them and see how are they enjoying the experience of working for you?
Yeah.
I'm always amazed how many people are kind of nervous of doing that on the grounds that I don't want to know. Almost, it's like denial, isn't it? It's like, I don't know, it can't be that bad. It's like, it might be, but you might be great.
You might be pleasantly surprised.
It might be brilliant. Yeah, it might be awesome. So okay, so structure's number 2. Regular sort of time, I suppose, in terms of those one-to-ones.
Yeah.
Okay, what would be the third one?
Accountability. I would probably say.
So unpack that. What do you
Yes.
mean?
And so by that, I think that if I think about a running business then, okay, so it's like, how often are you coming together as a senior leadership team? It should really be weekly at least.
100%.
Yeah. And how many business do you know that don't do that?
Yep.
And the businesses you know that do that, how much more successful are they?
I know it's the
You
rhythm,
know,
isn't it? It's the rhythm,
It's
right?
business rhythm. It's
Yeah.
absolutely business rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's the business rhythm, and it is, setting clear goals, meeting regularly, making sure everybody's on target, having clear agendas for that role. And by agenda, and a lot of people go, "Oh no, not an agenda." But we just mean by that, are you checking in on where did we do on sales last week? Where are we doing operationally last week? We set these things we said we were going to do last week. How did we do?
Yeah.
And it's just it's that check-in. It's that bringing everybody together. It's everybody having the knowledge of what's happening in the business right now and disseminating that to their teams underneath them. And I think that accountability is really key. And it also, when you have that, you're also keeping the business owner, the business CEO, the MD, the leader, that person is also being held accountable. Because I think sometimes otherwise you can be guilty of like, well, you asked me to do that. You said you were going to do that. You didn't do that. Why haven't you done that? Well, why should I do this? And it's like,
Yeah, I think that's where the trust breaks down. I think
Yeah.
if the team, if you've given a promise to the commitment to the team that you'll do something and you don't, but it's like, well, you're not keeping your promises to us, so like, well, what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
That's why we, one of the things I've been teaching this year a lot, and to our mastermind, the clients in the mastermind, I've been teaching them the words framework for meetings.
Okay.
So like starting with wins and what does everyone want? Because I think if you don't ask everybody around the table what they actually want to get from the meeting,
Yeah.
like you and I have had this experience, and I'm pretty sure anyone listening to this has, where you first of all, the meeting runs for an hour or something, and 5 minutes before the end, somebody perks up at the door. Oh, before we finish, can we just talk about this massive HR issue we've got on site with so and so? And you're like, that's not a 5-minute conversation. And how are you only telling me about it at the end of the meeting? And that's why I'm always a great believer and go like, first of all, celebrate, what's been positive, right? Let's celebrate the positive progress, right? One person shared one win, right? And then secondly, what does everyone want from this meeting, right? Like, because if you want something and I'm like, actually, that's not the forum for this, great, let's book a separate meeting outside of this.
Yes.
And frankly, just getting that bit right takes a whole lot of pressure off everybody.
Yep.
And then you start talking about, okay, great, what were some of the obstacles we faced last week as a team? What were some of the issues that we faced last week? Let's just talk about issues and obstacles. And then what are some of the opportunities that came up last week that not everyone might be aware of? Like there's an opportunity to sponsor this event, or there's an opportunity to partner with this person, right? So you get alignment when you are in a space where suddenly everyone's like, oh, right, that was an obstacle last week, or this was an opportunity that, okay, do we need to talk about the opportunity in this meeting?
Yeah.
Or do we need to talk about it separately? Does it fit strategically with anything we're doing at the moment? Or is it something we stick on the, good idea, but just not now list?
Yeah.
Then you go, okay, great. Then there's the results and resources piece for me, which is where you do, that's when you bring in numbers and data.
Yes.
The worst thing you can do in my experience of a team meeting, you sit down and the first thing everyone does is open a spreadsheet and look at numbers. It's like, no. This is a human to human connection. This is a human to human interaction. We're in a room with people. The first thing you should not start with is a data dump, right? It doesn't work for people. It doesn't work for their brain. People dread it if you start that way. There is a place for it and a time for it, but not at the beginning of the meeting. No. And then go, right, okay, let's look at the results from last week. What were the metrics that we're tracking? What did we see? What were the results? How did that marketing campaign do? How did the sales do? Whatever. What's the metrics, right? And specifically, what result did we achieve last week? And then you go, okay, great. And then what resources are we missing that we actually need to start thinking about, right? Are we going to need somebody in the team over there because that's growing and we're going to need a resource there? So you're looking at constantly resources so you don't get caught out with the, oh, we're really short, can we hire someone in a hurry piece?
Yep.
So there you go. So WORD. D is what data should we be looking at to support the results and decisions that we want to make. So if we want to make a decision about hiring somebody, well, what data are we using to support that decision? Like I was having a coaching call with a client of mine recently, and they said, we need to hire, we're probably going to need to hire somebody to answer the phones in the office. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, because the phones are ringing all the time. And I said, okay, can we get a piece of data on what all the calls are? How many calls are you getting a day? Are they customer service calls? Are they sales calls? Because that's a very different kind of solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, we haven't got any data on it at all. I said, right, so you might have been in there on a Thursday when it's mega busy, but on a Wednesday and a Friday, it's dead quiet.
Yeah.
I said, so can we let's get some data before we start jumping in and making decisions. So D is for what's the data, and then what decision do we want to make in this room? And I think too often, this must have been your life in corporate to some extent, is people go into meetings and no decision ever gets made in the meeting. And then you leave the meeting and you go, well, that was a complete waste of time because nothing got decided. And I'm like, you have to be intentional about saying, what decision do we want to make in this room?
Yeah.
Like, are we making a decision about the future of that factory? Or are we in this room making a decision about whether we invest in that company or that machine or whatever? And if you're not clear about the decisions, and you might go, well, we want to make a decision about this, but we've got no data to support it. So then it becomes really clear of like, great, go away and get me the data and then come back next week and we'll look at making the decision. But without the data, we're not making the decision.
Yeah.
And I think some of those things, you just got to get clear because we get paid as leaders, CEO, right? Like creating expansion opportunities. It's like, okay, you can't create opportunities if you don't make decisions. And therefore, I think you've got to have a framework in which you make that decision.
Yep.
And then final, the S for me is S stands for, what does success look like this week or this month if it's a monthly meeting, right? So everyone on the team is clear, right? Between now and the time we sit down next time, this is what success looks like. Because now we're all like, all right, that's what we're trying to hit, right? That's the target. Let's set that intention, right? That's what we're going for. And then the final bit of the S is what support does everybody need around this room from you as the leader or from someone else in the team to hit that and make that result viable, to hit that success outcome. Because then somebody go, well, actually, I'm going to need some support with this, or I'm going to need help with that. Okay, cool. Now we know we can allocate the resource. Let's go back up to whatever the resources we might need, and we can allocate that. But if you're not, my experience is most times those meetings finish and they're finished with the immortal acronym of AOB, which is the worst thing you can finish any meeting with ever, in my opinion, of any other business. It's like, you've just basically taken a giant can of worms and turned it upside down on the table, and because people will bring stuff that has no purpose being in that particular meeting. Yeah. So I think this, shout out to Celine from UKLC, who's a client of ours who came up with the original sort of a version of it, and then I took it and have added a couple of elements to it. But that whole kind of just give people that framework of like, there's 5 things. There's 5 things we're going to talk about, and you can get that done in an hour without an issue.
Yeah, it should never be more than an hour. That business rhythm call on a Monday morning, it should be an hour. Check in.
Well, I'm not a fan of first thing Mondays.
I guess it depends on your industry,
right?
I suppose.
Okay.
I think it depends on your business, but I do get what you mean. Yeah.
Well, because the poor old sustaining energy people who are coming on board, they need till sort of 10 or 11 o'clock to just warm up from the weekend.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say
they do it at 9. It's like, people go, we're having a sales meeting at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. I'm like, way to depress the team, right? Like, allow people to get in, get up to date, like detox, shift from the energy of being off at the weekend back into work mode. Yeah, so in fact, I've done it over the years where we've tested with quite a few clients, and Tuesdays is still the best day. If you run sales meetings on Tuesday, honestly, they're brilliant because by then everyone's fired up and they've had a day and they've cleared down all their rubbish, and not everybody can do that with every business. You're right, but if you can.
I definitely agree with sales, and I would agree with you on that one. I think there's a difference between a business rhythm meeting and a sales rhythm meeting as well. And I would say, like, business rhythm it should be those directors, those head of departments, where you have that check in on kind of what went well the week before, and exactly what you just talked about. Really, this sales rhythm, I think, is a different conversation. That should be with your sales reps, your sales execs, and where you're checking in. And for a sales rhythm, when I'm running sales teams, yes, you need those weekly stats. In fact, you need daily dashboards, really. You need a dashboard so you can always see the data. So you need those dashboards because everybody needs to see that. If you're a salesperson, you're out selling, how do you know how far you are off your target? Most salespeople are motivated to win. They're quite competitive.
They should be.
They should be.
If they're in the profession and they're any good, they should be, right?
Absolutely. And there's different types of salespeople. There's those that are aggressive, that, they'll sell anybody anything.
That's not always helpful.
No, not always.
You have to go and clear up the mess
I call them widget sellers.
All right.
Yeah, you have your widget sellers.
I used to call the ones that work for me years ago, I used to call them an elephant because they would knock down the doors, but they'd leave a huge pile of dung behind that you'd have to clear up. So it'd be like, great, I've got the sale. It'd be like, oh, good, what have I got to go and clear up afterward? You're so right. Then there's
there's definitely different types of salespeople. And then you've got your solution sellers, where actually they need to be a bit slower in the way that they act, because they need to be able to let their potential clients, understand what it is they're saying. They need to listen more than they speak to start with as well, so that they actually are providing a solution that kind of client wants. So you need the data, you need the dashboards, you need to see how you're doing, how your team is doing, how the business is doing. Where are you with regards to your goal for that month, your goal for that quarter? And it shouldn't just be one goal. It's made up, right? So you have, the number of calls you should be making, the number of visits you should be making, the number of quotes you should be getting out. And if you do all of the right behaviors, the orders come.
Yeah, because that's a lagging indicator.
Absolutely. And it's like, and I've seen it time and time again, and it's absolutely proven. If you have a clear sales structure and everybody does follow that structure, you get results.
Yeah.
And I think, and you need data to be able to see that, and to see as a manager where you are with that. You need to see it as the individual that's delivering. You want to be able to see your stats, and also that competitive nature of seeing what your colleagues doing. And it's like, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? I need to do that. I want to be better than them. You kind of get that healthy competition going as well.
Which I get coming from sort of a corporate background, because that's kind of built that way. In my experience, most sort of growing, scaling small businesses don't have that corporate background. Therefore, they don't. So do you think it's a case they don't know what they don't know with that, or they're afraid of putting that in, that kind of accountability in?
I think this kind of comes back to, when we talked about, you have a business that starts to get to that 5 million plus mark, and you can't know everything all of the time as a leader. You might want to, but you actually can't be all over everything all of the time.
Definitely not.
And if you have data and you have a dashboard, then that gives you confidence that your team are doing what they need to do, and that they are succeeding, or not, as the case may be. But at least if they're not, the numbers aren't going in the right direction, it's not a surprise. You can see it coming, and you can act, and you can get to the bottom of why that is. Is it a poor performer? Is it because they're overstretched and you need a bigger team? Is it because the product you're selling isn't quite right for market right now? Is it because of some external force? We've got a lot of those going on in the world at the moment. You can't see the true picture if you don't have data. You can't do everything on gut.
No. Well, not 5 million. It's hugely dangerous.
Absolutely. And yes, gut. A lot of that gut feeling that we all get, it comes from the lymphatic brain, doesn't it? It's like learned lessons. It's what you've learned before. But that can only get you so far. When you're running a 5 million,
verify with data.
Exactly, like that. Absolutely, yeah, exactly that.
So you're deep into the world of AI and all those kind of things.
I do love a bit of AI.
Yes, you do. And it's brilliant. But do you think there are tools like that can help people now to pull together dashboards
100%.
like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a tool for everything now. And if you don't know where to find it, if you don't know what to do, and you think that, I wonder if AI could do this for me, ask it. I think that's the key thing. If somebody says to me, will AI do this? Well, ask it. I think most of us now are using either ChatGPT or Claude, or perhaps both, as our kind of go-to, our initial go-to. So, there's others out there as well, Gemini, Grok, whatever, Grok, sorry.
That's different stuff.
I would just say, just
for scraping Twitter.
Yeah, there's all sorts out there. So, start with ChatGPT or Claude. My personal preference is Claude. I do use ChatGPT as well. The thing I like about Claude, and kind of what you've referred to there really, is that it's got the add-ons, so you can actually connect your Claude to Excel.
Yeah.
And you can give it raw data, and you can ask it to turn it into a dashboard for you, and it can do it in minutes.
Amazing.
And that's today. That's what's happening today. In a month's time, there'll probably be another tool that's come along that's even quicker than that. Because things are moving so quickly now. But you can absolutely, it's never been easier to manipulate data. Most systems that we use allow you to export data into Excel. You can connect things. You can use things called APIs to link your AI agents to your CRM system, to your account system, so that you can access the data that you already have.
But again, if this isn't your flow, I think this is an important point. If that's not what you enjoy in the business, then that's where building that team becomes such a critical thing, right? Like,
it's a skill required in the team now.
Yeah, the team needs it. I think sometimes we can quite easily say, you need to have the knowledge on this. And I'm like, well, do you, or as long as you've got somebody who's head of AI or is responsible for AI and looking at how you can deploy it, in the business. That may be enough. Now, do I think you should have a level of understanding about capability? Definitely.
Yep.
But if it's not your flow and it's not a thing you love doing, great. But you do need it in the team.
You do.
And I think, and you're really passionate, it kind of leads us on really nicely to talking about your view of like the team of the future, because I think we're at a really interesting sort of inflection point, I think, where the team dynamics as we've known them, or the traditional team dynamics, I think is radically shifting.
Yeah.
I think you've come up with a very nice kind of framework and model around that whole kind of team of the future, and I'd love to just kind of sort of delve into that. And
yes,
if you're watching us on YouTube or on Spotify, then you're going to get to see the graphics. So first of all, what informed your thinking around this? What were you starting to see that led you to create this model?
I mean, as you say, I love AI. I've always loved tech.
Right.
I've always embraced tech. When HTML coding first came out, I could HTML code. I learned how to do that, and I'm a bit of a tech geek. I like tech, but people are my thing.
Right.
And managing people, leading people, developing people. I think that's what
fixing. I think you're a good
fixing. Yeah, I think it's a really good phrase. Actually, I do like fixing.
Fixing teams.
I do. I like fixing.
It's fixed.
Yeah.
You know, you seem to want the next challenge. I think you quite like the challenge of fixing a team.
You absolutely. You're spot on there. Absolutely. I enjoy solving problems and fixing things. And AI is great for that. You can use AI to fix all sorts of things.
True.
What I'm finding is, and I geek out on the AI stuff, just to be clear. I am an embracer of AI. However, what I was seeing more and more of, when you look at LinkedIn, when you're on YouTube and all of your feed, everybody's talking about AI. AI is going to do this and AI is going to do that. And AI is going to do a lot of these things. And yes, AI is replacing jobs right now. It's also creating jobs, but it is replacing jobs right now. And teams are shifting. The workplace is shifting to accommodate AI. But if you were going to go and buy, let's say you were going to go and buy a new car next week, a significant amount of money you're about to spend. It's, it's a special car, something really important to you.
Second biggest purchase outside of house for most households.
Yeah.
It's the second biggest purchase.
So new purple car for Avins.
I'm fine, thank you, with my purple
drive.
car.
Would you, and I kind of retract this a little bit in as much as I bought my last car online.
You did?
Online and bought it online. I hadn't test driven it or anything. I just bought it online. But I did have interaction with people on that way. And when I went to pick up my car, I picked it up from a person.
Yes.
And actually, I wasn't overly happy with the service I received when I picked up the car. I wasn't made to feel like, I was a valuable customer. That's another story. But I think what that tells you is that we still want that interaction with a person. We still want to feel valued. We still want to feel that we matter, that we're significant.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of where I kind of got to with everything I'm reading about AI, everything I do with AI, everything I've learned from AI, and then the teams I work with. Yes, AI can replace certain roles. It can definitely replace tasks, and it can do tasks that none of us want to do. So, great, bring it on.
Yeah.
But it can't replace the personal touch. Well, not yet anyway. It can't replace people. And, it's the old adage, isn't it? People buy from people.
Well, I think it's the emotional connection. Right?
It is.
It's a part of your brain that wants to connect with a fellow human being.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's hardwired. That's thousands of years. That's thousands of years of development of us as a species. We're not suddenly, part of the reason I think lots of people are struggling to keep up with the speed of the change at the moment is you're asking a brain that's, as I was telling you, my dad recently turned 90, and you go back and, when he was born, you look at all the technology that's come out in his life, that computers for the first time, or the internet for the first time, and all that. And now we're talking about a self-aware piece of technology. It's just moving so fast that the brain that's been hardwired to keep us alive, build relationships, all of those things, it still wants that.
Yeah.
It absolutely needs it. There's a part of the human experience which is to share the human experience with other people. And I think the power in the company is a company that can free up time for people to create more magic moments, more connection with customers, more experiences that build loyalty and, lifetime value. And those are not coming from, there's no piece of AI that's going to beat that.
No. And the AI should be a team member. That's how I see it.
So unpack that. What do you like?
So
Explain that.
I believe that the team of the future will absolutely have AI in it.
Yeah.
So there will be tasks, there will be roles, there might be, a whole job,
Right.
replaced within that team that is completely done by AI. But you will still need humans. So the teams of the future will be with the most successful teams of the future will be those that complement each other, those that are integrated, those hybrid teams
Right.
of people and AI.
So they blend it.
They blend it. And I think as a leader of a business, if you want the most successful teams in the future, you need these four things.
So talk us through these.
Okay. So to be a successful leader, to have a successful grown-up business,
Yep.
kind of as we talked about, when you get to that point where you can't do everything yourself,
No.
you need people. You need people in your team.
Yep. It's a point of leverage.
You need
isn't
your
it?
tribe
Yep.
to help you grow your business
Yep.
and succeed.
It's probably one of the first places of leverage people get.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
bringing other people onto the bus, as it were.
And I think the change that we've seen, until probably in the last 2 years, perhaps, as a solopreneur, when you start out, you get to the point where your business is doing well and you can't do it all on your own anymore and you're ready to kind of bring in help. Up until 2 years ago, probably, you'd maybe reach out and get a VA, or you might get a freelance business manager.
Yeah.
You might get somebody in that kind of capacity. Eventually, you might get to the point where you employ somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that's been delayed. That has been replaced by AI because there's so much we can do with AI.
Or teams are staying smaller for longer.
Yeah.
So you're getting to 4 or 5 or 6 or 10.
Yes.
And then where before you would have kept going to 15, 20, now I think you're optimizing at 10
Yes.
plus tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And you maybe start out with AI, and then you get to the point where you bring more people in, or as you say, you've got a small team, and rather than growing it as quickly as you might have done in the past, you maybe have brought some, you started utilizing AI,
Yeah.
and somebody in that
And
team has taken ownership of that.
Yeah, I don't think we should
absolutely.
underestimate
that team
the
isn't
impact.
necessarily.
Team can be outsourced
Those
and
people
employed.
can be, they don't need to be, in your office, on your street. They can be anywhere in the world now, right?
Yeah.
So you've got your people. Once you get your people, which is kind of what we talked about before, is you need your systems, you need processes, you need tech. And at this point, we're not talking about AI, we're talking about dashboards, we're talking about CRM systems, we're maybe talking about SOPs, we're talking about how we do our business, how we do business. Yeah. So
software.
Absolutely. So the people in the team, when they're asked to do a task, they know how to do it because there's a system that tells them how to do it.
Okay.
And then you have the ownership. Who owns what? Who's responsible for what? This is the accountability, the ownership. Who is going to take on these tasks? Who's responsible for sales? Who's responsible for ops? Who's responsible for finance?
Yeah.
Who owns these things? And then these things all exist at the moment. Yeah, you have it. That's what you currently have. Yeah, if you have a successful team, you've got people, systems, accountability, ownership, somebody leading the team. But now we have AI as well. And that's another part of what a successful team looks like. And I think the team of the future will have less people, but those people will be more skilled.
Yeah.
And you'll have AI agents as well within your business.
Yeah.
And those AI agents will also have ownership. They'll also know what they own. They'll have accountability. They'll also use systems. And that team of the future is that hybrid team of people utilizing AI, AI utilizing people in some way.
I think that's definitely going to happen.
All working together for a common goal, for a leader. I mean, maybe, who knows, at some point, is that leader going to be AI as well?
Let's hope not.
Absolutely. I hope not too. I absolutely hope
the
not.
leadership to AI, we're in real trouble, I think, at that point. I think humanity's
I certainly hope not.
in a very dangerous place if we outsource that. I don't think
there's a movie in Hollywood coming soon where that is the case.
I think it's already been out. I think it's already been out. It was called Terminator.
But I agree. And, and I think that, so having those key things in place and having a clear structure, clear ownership of understanding who does what, that's when you can then utilize AI. Because there's a clear understanding of this role needs to be done. What is this role? What is the goal of this role? Is this a people? Is this a human task, or is this an AI task? Yeah,
and I think there's a danger that people, and certainly the more mature, that I'll use this language because I think it works. If you're a more mature business or a traditional business, I think there's still a habit of defaulting to, we've reached capacity, let's throw people at it.
Yep.
Which is an expensive way to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think what I'm seeing is with younger, more sort of mid-30s, 35-year-old entrepreneurs coming through, they're not throwing people at stuff. They're
No.
going, don't want to do that. I got introduced to an incredible son of someone I know who's been on this podcast, actually, Andrew. He introduced me to his son, and his son has built £1 million, I think it's about $1 million accounting business. The whole business is all virtual. He's running it from anywhere in the world. He was off to Bali for 8 weeks or something crazy when I met him. Their customer criteria is we don't ever meet in person. It's only ever online. So if you want an accountant that's going to meet you in person, that's not us.
Yeah.
And they've grown that business to sort of whatever the number is. Like, it's a significant revenue business in the last 2 years, and they can travel and they can go anywhere, and they've got a huge amount of tech and outsource people who are doing lots of the things for them. And I think that generation, and he's sort of 32, 33, is already sees this.
Yes.
I think the generations that are not seeing this yet, and I think we're bringing it into a number of our, into all of our programs and into the events that we're running to kind of like level up the thinking around this. Is I think if you're a mid-50s, late 50s entrepreneur running a traditional type business, you don't by default go to that as your solution.
No.
You tend to just go to, we need to hire people. I was in a board meeting on a couple of weeks ago, and we were trying to sort some issues out, and the board was just like, well, we need to throw people at it. We need to hire this. And I was like, well, yeah, hang on a minute. Maybe we don't actually. Maybe we could outsource some of that to a couple of people in South Africa, and we could bring in some AI, some tech and things to fix some of this. And they were like, oh, right, you think? And I was like, no, definitely, like 100%. And it's like, I just think there's a ingrained throw people at the problem, because up to this point, that's been the main leverage.
Yes.
Right. And what's shifting in real time very fast is the main leverage is not just people.
Yes.
The main leverage is people, fractional people.
Yes.
Which is a whole new thing, really, relatively speaking. And then technology empowered people.
Yes. Agreed.
And I think that's where we're already on it. And I think the younger generation of entrepreneurs is already got there.
Yep.
And it's not news to them. It's like, well, yeah, we built it this way from the ground up. But I think you're having to almost retrofit, to use that kind of phrase, I think retrofit older, more mature businesses and more mature industries into this new model. And I think that's what's causing some of the sort of disruption and layoffs and various other things like that, is people are trying to retrofit this into models that were not built this way from the ground up. Yeah,
I'd agree. And I think there's a lot of fear around AI as well, with a lot of traditional businesses, should we say. So, it's coming for us. It's going to take the jobs,
It's not coming for anybody. It's just a resource. It's like saying electricity
100%.
is going to come for candles.
Exactly.
It's like, no.
How long ago did we get the internet? It's like, certainly within my lifetime, it's like, now we wouldn't be without it.
Yeah.
And, and we have to see it like that. We have to embrace it like that. And I think we have to see the positives from AI, which there are a lot of.
Yeah.
And I think we have to utilize it. It's a great tool. It can really expedite a business's growth journey, I think. I think it really can speed things up. And I think that, it doesn't cost a lot to run an AI agent. And I think that really it's about, like, it's kind of like what you said, really, it's that difference, isn't it, between, a well-established traditional business right now that isn't even, that they're not even using ChatGPT or Claude.
No.
To what we've got now as these entrepreneurs that kind of, the digital nomads, they work from anywhere. They've got massive teams maybe, but they've never even met their team members, perhaps.
I mean, half of our team is based in the Philippines, right?
Absolutely.
I keep trying to persuade Sue we should go there for a holiday, but not yet. But I haven't met them, right? In person, haven't met them in person. I think that's it's a pivotal shift in thinking, I think, as a leader at the moment, to go, and this is the language I like to try and coach people around it, is like, right, stop for a minute and think, what's the constraint we're trying to fix?
Yes.
What leverage tools do I have at my disposal to fix it? Right? I have tech, I have people, I have systems, I have potential outsourcers, I have partnerships that I could use to solve it. Right. Of the leverage vehicles that I've got, which one is the one that I can probably deploy for the least amount of money to get it fixed? And I think if you stop and look at it like that, right, I've got a constraint, trying to solve the constraint. The only best way to solve a constraint is with leverage.
Yep.
Right. Let's list the leverage things that I've got available to me, and then decide which one solves it in the most efficient way. That's a discipline. And that's a discipline that I think most sort of, well, what I mean is by this next statement is most entrepreneurs who built because they've hustled really hard and got to that point haven't had before.
Yeah.
And suddenly they've got a level of leverage at their disposal that they're not used to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's causing some of the big shifts in certain companies at the moment at speed, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I was having a conversation with a finance lady recently, and she was like, "Oh, one thing in my spreadsheet changes, and it's 4 hours work to recalculate everything else." And I was just like, "Really?"
Not anymore.
I was like, "Not, yeah, exactly that." I said to her, "Not anymore." And she was looking at me like, "Well, why?" And I was like, "Well, we'll get Claude set up, and we'll build processes for that." And I said, "One thing changes, and AI will recalculate everything for you in 5 minutes or less." And you could just see her eyes light up, and she's like, "So I get back 4 hours." I was like, "Yeah." And how often does that happen? She goes, "Once or twice a week."
Yeah.
And then you look at it and go, "That's 8 hours of her time we've got back." Now, what that is doing is it's stopping people hiring a junior to do that task, which they would have done.
Yes.
Now, that's a different issue. That's a societal issue, which is why we've got 25% unemployment against under 25s, because businesses would have previously hired a junior to support and solve that.
Yeah.
Don't need to do that anymore.
No.
And I think that's what we're yet to really understand, is how we as an economy redistribute some of that talent.
I would agree.
Into other roles. But the reality is, if I can have a piece of AI that will do it, and it's going to cost me 20, 50 pounds a month versus hiring somebody at 22 grand a month, I'm going to use the tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what entrepreneurs do. They're designed to optimize what they're doing. Right. So I think the question I would ask people listening to this is, number one, what is the biggest constraint that you're facing at the moment in the business? Number two, have you actually sat down with your team and gone, right, how do we solve this constraint? And is it with more people, which is expensive and probably our last go-to? Or actually, should we be looking at, a system like a piece of software, SaaS type thing, CRM, whatever? Or actually, do we just need a really good piece of AI? I actually think AI over the medium term, the next couple of years, is going to eat the lunch of most SaaS companies.
I think you're probably right.
I think if I'm invested in SaaS companies right now, I'm sitting there going, 2 years, I'm not going to need why do you need a CRM system? Because the AI is probably going to be pulling all this data together and doing it all for you.
Yep.
And then suddenly your SaaS is a hell of a lot less valuable.
Yep.
So I think we're in that transition phase where nobody really knows what that looks like at the minute.
I think you're right. And I think that I would challenge any business not to be able to save at least 10 hours a week by sitting down and actually thinking about, okay, what in my business could I use AI to automate right now?
But the question the answer to that is, let's just say, I mean, you and I have helped a client of ours recently, and you created an amazing custom GPT for them that's going to save them sort of 29 hours plus a month, which is amazing. And that's a piece of our intellectual property that they've now got in there. But it was understanding the process flow first. Before you deployed, and this is where I think people do get it wrong, they don't sit down and map out the process flow. They just go throw AI at it. And it's like, well, hang on a second. AI is only going to be as good as your process flow was. If your process flow if you haven't mapped any of that, then it's not optimizing anything. But I do think there is a really good challenge, if you're listening to this podcast, to sit down and go, right, where in our business are we is it low level repetitive tasks that frankly we want to buy back the time of the team, buy back the team's time so that they can do other high value tasks, and sit down and just get a list of all that stuff. And you'll probably find it's 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours a month.
Absolutely.
And that's time that you can then deploy on higher value activities to create more value for customers. And that's where it should be deployed, not into, hey, we can all go to a 4-day week.
Absolutely.
No.
No, yeah, absolutely.
No, we're not. That's not that's not the outcome we're shooting for, right? I think there are a few people who are shooting for that outcome, but that's not the one we're shooting for, right?
I think it's incredible what you can do with it. I mean, I was doing my accounts for coming up for year ends, and I've got my data in a spreadsheet. I connected Claude, added it to Claude, and asked it to, to optimize my tax position, and it just done. Do this, do that, do this. Lovely, thank you very much.
And I think that that's the challenge, is that we are absolutely rapidly coming to the end where value is created with intellectual property and knowledge.
Yep.
That knowledge is now becoming universal, and therefore there is no value in that. What there is value in perspective.
Yes.
Right? You could get that's the case. Get that However, if you sat down with a tax accountant who's got a different perspective and talks to you about your life goals and this and that and the other, and
Yeah, absolutely.
it's perspective, right?
It is.
And I think,
yeah.
knowledge is becoming ubiquitous, but perspective is hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And truth is getting even tougher to find
Mhm.
as well with all of that. So is it, just while we're talking about kind of capacity type things, is that why you created the sort of the founder capacity review tool? Is that why you built that? Or
Yeah, so a lot of what I do with clients is where I speak to a CEO, speak to a leader that says, I've got too much on my plate. I created this business for freedom, for flexibility,
yeah,
and I've lost it. Somewhere along the line, I've created a really successful business. I had it, and now my business has got to a point where I've lost it, and I don't know what to do about it. And I've got great people and a great team, but I'm working ridiculous hours. I'm not seeing my family. I'm not getting the life balance I wanted.
right.
And that's generally where the conversation starts. And, and that's where, I will have a sit down with that CEO, talk about their business, understand the leadership team, and we talk about the things that we've talked about before about, what's the structure? Who have you got in your team?
Right.
What's the goal of your business? What does freedom look like for you? Because it's very different for everybody, isn't it?
True. True.
For some people, it is a reduced week. For some people, it's a financial freedom to travel,
Yeah.
or to provide security.
Work from anywhere.
Exactly. Or to, pay school fees or, whatever they might want to do. So freedom means different things to different people. And so I will go into a business and try and understand, what the current position is, what they'd like the end goal to be, and then look at the steps that we need to get there.
Yeah.
And as part of that, we work through the DASH framework.
Oh, cool. Great. So talk to us about this.
Yeah.
This is something I think you've only talked to me about a couple of times, I think.
Yeah.
So walk us through this.
Yeah. So it's something that's kind of, it's become more and more apparent to me the more people I work with, the more businesses I go into that, when we sit down and we say, I've come into you, sat down and I've said to you maybe, okay, so to talk to me, tell me about your business. And, and I think, we all as business leaders will sit down and we know there are things that we like doing in our business. We know there's things that we like doing and perhaps we shouldn't be doing them anymore. So we should be delegating those. There are things that only
they're
we
the hardest
can do.
to delegate.
They're
by the
really
way.
hard.
They're the hardest to delegate because
Absolutely.
you like doing them.
Absolutely. And I would challenge anybody to, if you can create capacity to still keep doing those things, then keep doing those things, because if that's what gives you joy and what you enjoy. I mean, no, I've done that. I've got a VA. She's based in South Africa that she helps me with my LinkedIn and my social media. But actually, I really missed writing my own LinkedIn posts because I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, so we have a conversation and she does this and I do that and I keep the bit that I like. But she's taken on other things that have given me capacity back to do other things.
Nice.
And and I think that's really important. You still need to enjoy what you do.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
totally.
what is the point?
Absolutely,
Yes,
100%.
okay. So the bank balance might look healthy, but if you're not enjoying it, it makes you a miserable human.
Yes.
And so when I sit down with the CEO and we talk about kind of what's on their plate and how we can create more freedom, I start off with the DASH framework. And we look at kind of everything that's kind of happening on the business. What sits on their plate? What hits their desk? What's in their inbox? And that might mean we look in their inbox. We look at the calendar. We talk about kind of what the last week's been like. We talk about kind of what this month's been like. And we kind of actually list these things down. And from what we can gather, all this information that we gather, we start to get a really clear picture about all those plates in the air, all those things that are coming to you, about what should and shouldn't and what we can move elsewhere. And when I say move elsewhere, this is when we go through the DASH framework. So what tasks can we delegate? Can we delegate them to somebody already in the team? Can we delegate them to a system, to a process? Can we move them into automate and automate them?
Or can you delegate to someone outside who's an outsourcer?
We can, yeah.
Or some fractional person to do it, right?
Totally, yeah. So we look at what can be delegated, and then from those things we look and see what can be automated.
Mm-hmm.
What's sitting on your desk that can be automated by AI? Maybe just by a spreadsheet, maybe by a SaaS system, maybe by a CRM. But more often than not now, it's an AI solution.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that will immediately give you back a good chunk of hours.
Yeah, 100%.
Which and they can be really quick wins.
Yep, totally agree.
That really speed you up.
Seen it.
So delegate, automate. What are you doing that you don't need to do anymore? I've been into so many businesses where they've got like hundreds of spreadsheets that are all getting updated, and they're like, well, okay, so why do you do that? Why have we got this spreadsheet? And I'll, well, because we want to be able to see X, Y, and Z, but you've got that information in this spreadsheet. Why do we need two spreadsheets? And that happens, isn't it? As a business evolves, you've probably seen this so many times where a business grows,
stump duplication,
and they keep doing the things they always used to do, but they brought in new things, and actually some of the things they used to do don't need to be done anymore.
No, that's true. Well, I think we used to have a sign in my strategy room, sort of the boardroom, and it said it was a one of those stop signs.
Yes.
And it said on it, but we've always done it that way.
Yes.
And it was like, no, you have to stop that. It's like that will kill innovation. It's like the one thing somebody, but we've always done that. That will kill innovation faster than anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, so we had this, it was a backlit sign, actually. I think we lost it when we moved, but it used to be in the office. So you came in and it was like, right, yeah, that's you're not allowed to say that in here, because it's like, that stops us. I don't care whether you did it before. It's like, what do we need now?
Yeah.
Do we really need that now?
Yeah. And I think that, and I really would challenge a CEO to sit down and do this. It's like, write down a list, put these headings down. What can you delegate? And okay, so maybe you might not know who to delegate it to at the moment, but it's something that could be delegated. So just capture it. What can you automate? What can you get help with to create an AI agent to take something away from your to-do list and to create a solution that's automated?
Yeah.
And then really think about, what am I doing that I don't need to do anymore? Because I guarantee there'll be something.
Oh, there'll be loads, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, just on the delegate piece, something that I've always found helpful to clients to get their heads around this is to just do some basic math and say, well, look, if you value your time at £250 an hour, right? Let's start there. That's not massively, for a CEO, that's not a massive amount of money, but let's assume that's what it is. Then let's start writing down everything you're doing that is significantly less than that.
Yeah.
And then let's start going, right, what are the, well, you say £10 tasks, but the way with inflation is it's probably £25 tasks now. But what are the sort of like what are the £10, £20 tasks that you're getting sucked into? Let's get rid of those first, and then either out delegate those or automate those. And then what are the other element of that is like, okay, great. So we get you up to at least you're working on £250 tasks. And then the other thing I think is you want to delegate tasks that are not your flow.
Yes.
So, I had a great example of this last night. I had 30 real videos from a podcast that I'd done before that need to go through the production flow cycle. And, it'd been a long day of coaching yesterday. And I was like, I don't have the energy to sit down and review 30 videos and pick out my top 5 or 6. Just, each one's at least a minute to a minute and a half each. And I was just like, mentally, I just haven't got it.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I thought about this and thought, okay, like, use your own stuff, Paul. Like, who should you give this to if you don't want to do it?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes this is what creeps into my head, and I don't know if you're listening to this, whether this resonates for you as well, but there's a guilt battle that goes on at that point, because I'd like to delegate it. I kind of know who I want to delegate it to, but there's also a guilt in my head of like, yeah, but I really should be doing this. Right. And it's like, there's that little story.
It's the story we tell.
Yeah, but I've got to overcome that first, because I think everyone has the little bit on the shoulder that goes, yeah, but you should do it, really, shouldn't you? And it's like, and anyway, so I Jonathan happened to walk into the room at the time, and obviously he's doing an internship on video production at the moment, which is great. And I said to him, if I gave you 30 videos to review and watch, could you rate, like, because he knows what works and what kind of videos I like and stuff. And I said, could you pick out 5 to 10 that we could then just sit down and look at and just go through the things that are your top 10? And he was like, sure, yeah, I'll do that. And he comes back in like an hour later, having had, I've had a chance to have some dinner, sit down, recalibrate a bit. And he comes in and goes, great, I've got 8. So I've got already 8 good ones. And he'd found 8 great ones. And out of the 8, I went, well, I think those are my top 5 favorites. And that whole task ended up sort of, taking me probably 10 minutes.
Yep.
And I look back and I go, yeah, that's a great example of using the sort of 10 minutes to brief somebody. 80% of the time they do the rest of the middle bit, and then 10 minutes at the end of it. But the challenge was the internal dialogue battle that I had to get past of do that.
Well, because you've always done it as well, right?
Yeah.
So
and I was like, I'm about to do I've always done it that way, right?
Yeah, because I've always done it.
It's because of the way. So if you look at the neuroscience, once you do something for 21 days or more, you actually create a neural pathway in the brain that's then very hard to break.
Mhm.
So this is not something of like, oh yeah, you can't get out of your own way stuff. No, that's none of that motivational crap stuff. There's actual neuroscience that changing a habit is hard.
Mhm.
So if you look at the neuroscience with this, there has to be a kind of like an event that has you go, this is daft or silly or whatever. Like, why am I doing this? And then you've got 7 days when you're motivated to change stuff.
Mhm.
Then, which is when you start doing that. So like I've already said to Jonathan, right, we're adding this to your job description, so on and so forth. You're going to be doing this going forward. Add him into the, video production flow, workflow, introduce him to the team, all that. So now I've made a commitment to him that he's doing this going forward. It's very hard for me to take it back now, right? Because I've now given it to him. I've empowered him.
Mhm.
And then from that perspective, what the data says is like, it'll take you about 21 to 25 days to rewire the neural path in the brain. It's a bit like a river running through running through somewhere. After a while, the river is formed, right? And then it becomes really hard to divert it.
Mhm.
But it's going to take about 21 to 25 days to do that. So if you can get through that, what's called the sort of like the tension zone, when you have to think about doing it a different way.
Mhm.
Once you're outside the 25-day zone, now you've rewired your brain, and now you're never going back to it.
Yeah.
But most people, in my experience, they take it back somewhere in the middle of about 14, 15 days in.
Yeah.
Because they go, oh, this isn't working. It's not that it isn't working. It's that you haven't become comfortable with it working yet.
Yeah.
That statement is it.
Yeah.
And once you go, look, I just have to stay with the uncomfort for another 10 days,
Mhm.
and then I'm out of this completely. But it's that understanding. I've found it useful to explain to people there is a scientific 21-day period when you're going to feel really uncomfortable delegating it.
Yeah.
You just have to get through it.
Yeah.
Like there isn't I can make this feel nice and you can go away. It's like you just have to learn to rewire your brain, and the trust will come out the other side of 21 days.
Yeah.
You're going to break the trust in the 21 days if you jump in and fix it.
Yes.
Right?
You'll be back to square one again.
You go back to day one, and then you got to do it all again. So when you get that, it's like, oh, okay, all right. Now I need to understand how I rewire my brain.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in
No,
on
absolutely. And you come right back to that trusting. A lot of this is about the trust, isn't it? It's about trusting yourself that you're making the right judgment call,
100%.
trusting your team, trusting your people, trusting your AI agents created correctly.
You got to train the AI. I think
you
that's the
do.
bit you're very good at. You wouldn't hire somebody, would you? And then go, oh well, most people, by the way, people do this. Hire them, give them a. There's your desk, there's your computer, crack on.
Yeah.
Well, if you do that with AI, it will do a terrible job for you, and you'll go, oh, AI is rubbish.
Yeah.
No. Did you train them very well? Did you onboard them very well? Did you teach them all about your culture? If you didn't, how did you expect them to perform?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest reason why most people fail when they recruit people, is they don't do any of the onboarding piece right.
I totally agree. And I think just with that AI piece there, it's quite often, especially if you're trying to create quite a complex AI agent to solve quite a high level of complexity within your business, you start off on one path of trying to create an AI agent to replace the way you currently do it. And quite often, as you're going off on that journey, you realize that actually there's a better way to do this.
Yes.
And it's kind of almost you kind of own sort of self-discovery journey, I guess, really, where you think, actually, I've created this and this does what we did before, but actually I've realized, because I've sat down and focused on this, that there's a better way to do this, and we can now make it better. So quite often, I've done this now, you create an AI agent, and before you know it, you create another one, because actually the one you created to replace the job that you had originally, that's great, but now I can see that it can be done even better. So I've created another one now. So it's a really good kind of process for really streamlining and improving your business and the processes within it. And the more you interact with your AI agent, the better you get at prompting, the better the AI agent is. That's quite hard to say.
It's teaching you to think again.
To say to you, okay, you ask it questions.
It's teaching you to think.
How would you do this differently? Don't just tell it, ask it. How could I improve this? Now we've created this, what could we do to make this better? And exactly like you would to a team. If you were managing your team well, this is the system we have. This is how we've always done things. How could we make it better? And listen when you get that response.
Yes.
Because it's very easy, as somebody that's created a business and grown something and created something successful, to think, well, yeah, but what we do now works. I like the way we do it now. There's actually, but yeah, you can't have all the best ideas. No one human has all the best ideas. So just take them on board and listen to them. You don't have to action them, but I think it is always good to hear other people's opinions.
It's growth mindset versus non-growth
Absolutely,
mindset,
isn't it?
right?
Absolutely.
And I think the danger, and I was talking to, we're doing a podcast on leadership with somebody and recently, and we were having this conversation about, I think the danger is if you are successful. So if you got to 3 to 5 million, you are a pretty successful business, right? You're in the top, 3 to 5% of companies in the UK. Globally, you're in the top 10%, right?
Okay.
The danger in that zone is that you start to think either A, you know it all.
Yep.
Which is, I would say, a massive leadership danger.
Yeah.
Or secondly, that you can't do it any better than the way you're already doing it, and it obviously works. And I think that's when you go back to just getting clear about, okay, look, what's the vision again? Because maybe, there's the things there's the things you don't know, and it's the things you don't know. That's where the biggest opportunities come in.
Yeah.
That's why people come talk to us and bring us in to show them things that they don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's how you really get a transformation going in a business, right? If you want to transform a business and completely bring it into this new age that we're living in, you have to first of all embrace the fact that there are going to be things that you don't know.
Yes.
And be okay with that.
Yes.
And then go, right, my job now is to close the gap for everyone in my business on a knowledge perspective between what we know and what we don't know and how we can fix this. And that's why I think the DASH framework is really, really great. Did we cover the last bit of the DASH framework?
The last one on DASH is quite key, which is hire.
Oh, right.
And I think, so quite often when CEOs reach out to me, that they know that I help with recruitment quite a lot.
And you're incredibly good at it.
I do it a bit of a different way.
We're not giving all your trade secrets around this. We might do another podcast on recruitment, just on recruitment, I think, because it's that good.
But quite often somebody will reach out to me like, I've got too much on my plate, I'm overstretched, I've lost my freedom, I want my time back, blah, 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 blah. I need to hire somebody.
Yeah.
And that's generally not always the case. So then this is where DASH comes in really well. Is like, okay, so we'll have the conversation around, okay, why do you need to hire somebody?
Yeah.
What is it that you think you need to give to this person? And that's where we can also go down this DASH framework, because actually quite often, perhaps not the delegate, because perhaps they've already delegated everything they can think of at that point, but the actual automate. Is there something we can automate? And do you really need everything in this task that we've defined for this potential role?
Yeah.
Is that really things that you actually need to still do within your business? And hire should be the last choice.
Because it's the most expensive,
because
right?
It's most expensive.
And it's high risk.
Has a big impact, doesn't it?
It's
Absolutely.
high risk.
And I think, go through this process first. Figure out what you can delegate. Figure out what you can automate.
Yeah.
Figure out if there's anything you can stop doing. Then let's have the conversation about hiring.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key point then. And only then should you then go to market and start looking for somebody to bring into your team.
I think that's such a powerful model. That's why I love it, because I think too many times people just go, I'll just hire somebody.
Yeah. And then you hire somebody that ends up, like you said, not onboarded properly, sat at a desk thinking, what do I do? Or they do what needed doing, which was an immediate need.
Yeah.
And then 6 months down the line, they're bored because there's nothing for them to do. They don't really understand what their role is, nor does anybody else in the team.
Or they don't work out.
And they leave. And then, you think, oh, well, they didn't work out anyway. But actually, you need to self-reflect and look at yourself as to why have they left?
Yeah.
Did we really nail that role in the first place? Did we really have a need for that role?
Yeah, true.
And if we really did have a need for that role, did we actually define what that role was properly? And did we set them up to succeed, or did we set them up to fail? Really?
Yeah. Or did we have a good recruitment process? All of those.
Did we do it right?
Most people don't have, right?
No,
I think
you're just looking for a quick fix.
Yeah, I think that's great when you're 500k or less.
Yeah.
But that need sort of like just hire somebody kind of mentality causes you immense amount of challenges, problems, issues, and that's before obviously all the legislation that's changed recently or is about to change, around the April time that's changed around that, and that's before all of that comes in. So getting a wrong hire now is going to become even more high risk.
Yes.
And I think if you're going to scale a business, this is why I've been passionate for years about the fact that you can't live the dream if you can't build a team.
Yeah.
And building a team starts with clarity on role.
Yes.
Clarity on responsibility.
Yeah.
And then clarity on recruitment.
Yeah.
And those three things are the three things that most sort of founders and CEOs who like to be in a hurry to get to the next destination genuinely kind of don't do enough properly around. And I think there's a whole conversation at some point between, we do a round table with me, you, Graham, whatever, just talking about best practice around this stuff, because it's shocking to me how little training most companies have had around recruitment, interviewing even, or writing good job descriptions, or writing good adverts to attract people.
Understanding that you need to sell your business to them as much as they need to sell themselves to you.
It's a talent value proposition,
Absolutely.
right? What's your talent value proposition?
Two-way deal.
Yeah, well, it's like we have a customer value proposition, but you now need a talent value proposition. Like, do you have one? Well, ask. Give us 5 reasons why someone should work for you versus someone down the street.
Yeah,
give me 5.
Yeah,
most people are looking at you like, because we pay them. No, well, everyone pays them. It's like, what else? Why is somebody? Recruitment and talent acquisition is a critical success factor in scaling a business.
Yep.
Period.
Yes.
And I think the fact that you've been so incredibly successful on doing that for so many people, it so far, in the time that we've been running that for people, it's like, look, you've just got to make a decision as a CEO. Is it something you want to learn to master, or you just want to bring someone in who can expedite the situation with a level of experience and make that decision?
Yeah.
And you're going to pay. I said this to a CEO a couple of days ago. I said, look, you're going to pay a price one of 2 ways. You're either going to pay the price of you having to learn it by interviewing 20 odd people to get to the 3 that you want to final interview.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to pay that price, or you're going to pay, a fee to us to run it all for you, and then put 3 world-class candidates in front of you because we've already spoken to 35 or whatever. And I said, you're going to pay a price either way. You just need to decide which is the most painful one.
Yeah.
And then he probably said, right, great, introduce me to Nicola. So it's like, but I think that's the decision you just got to make, and then be at peace with it, and then crack on with what's next, right? From that perspective. So I think, wow, God, we covered a lot, haven't we already? It's like Dash is great. I love that. I think for me, obviously, there's a lot of opportunities for businesses at the moment, and specifically around this whole kind of like getting people out and getting people buy back their time, right?
Absolutely.
Which obviously we're both a fan of Dan Martell's work.
Absolutely, yeah.
Who knows? Maybe at one point we'll put him on the pod. He'd love to come on the podcast, Dan. If you're out there, love to have you on the show. But I think let's kind of wrap it up by going, based on sort of your experience and the things we talked about today, what's your advice for a CEO or a founder wanting to build a grown-up business? Like, what's your definition of a grown-up business in light of everything we've talked about today?
So I would say a grown-up business is one where everything doesn't depend on you.
Yeah.
So freedom comes from not being the only answer to the questions that your business asks of you.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So it comes from not being the only answer in the business. And I think that, for that not to be the case, for everything not to lead back to you, you need to have a strong team. You need to have a team you can trust. And we talked about trust so much on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's so key. You need to have a team that you trust to delegate to.
Yeah.
You need a team that you can trust to automate processes for you.
Yep.
And you need to hire people that you trust. And I think to do all of those things, that takes a lot of courage initially, of self-courage, when you're growing a business and you've been used to kind of, flying by the seat of your pants, maybe hustling to get your business to a point where it's sustainable.
Bootstrapping it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and that's a lot that people have been through.
Yeah.
So then to kind of try and take off then the rails a little bit and trust others to do it for you, that's a big thing. But actually, if you can do it, you do it right, do it with the right support around you, you will create a business that will give you back freedom. And like we said, freedom is different things to different people. But until you have the team around you that you can trust, you won't be able to do that. And that starts with defining the roles, defining the structure, defining what your ultimate goals are, and where you fit now in this next phase of your grown-up business. What is your role in that grown-up business?
Trusting yourself. I think trusting yourself as a leader that you can grow into that.
Yes.
I don't, nobody becomes an absolutely world-class leader on day one, right?
No,
and as the business evolves and grows, trust that you have the capability to grow.
Yeah.
Right? That you have the capability to grow. And I think as long as you trust that, then everything else you can acquire. You can acquire the talent, you can acquire the tech, and you can acquire the skills.
Yeah.
The trust in yourself and your ability to grow is something that's got to come from the inside out.
Absolutely. And if and there's, speak to people like yourself, get yourself a coach, get somebody to support you, get somebody that will help you grow as that leader, that can then, build that grown-up business, and that can grow that team behind you to support you and help you to flourish and take your business to the next level, whether that be further growth, exits, or whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. You're not going to exit unless you've got a team that runs the business that you can trust, because no one's going to buy the business if they're buying a job. Yeah. Like, that's the key takeaway. It's like,
they're not buying you, they're buying your business, right?
Well, if they buy you, the challenge is they buy the business and it's key man dependent on you. You will be on a 3-year lock-in, and you will hate your life within 12 months. Yeah. Because any I can tell you now from experience, any founder who has sold out on a 3-year lock-in, after a year they want out, they're done, they don't want to work for anyone else. Yeah. And if you've made the business dependent on you, 1, you'll get less money for it because you're at high risk. 2, I'm going to tie you in for 3 years. So it's like, look, you might as well spend a year learning to build a really great team with really great tech and trust them. Yep. And train them. Yep. Right? Trust and train. And then when you do exit, you're going to be out in some cases in 6 months, because the owner will go, well, I don't need you because it works really greatly without you. It works beautifully without you. Yeah, great. And you have created the capacity to grow.
Indeed you have.
There you go. You like what I did there?
I like that.
I
like that a lot.
I thought that was a good way to finish it, right? Listen, been an awesome conversation. How can people find you, connect with you? Obviously, we'll link your socials below in the comments.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, find me on my website, capacitytogrowth.com.
Brilliant.
And I'd love to have a chat.
And LinkedIn is one of your favourite platforms.
I do like LinkedIn, yeah. I can be found on LinkedIn regularly.
Yes, great. You're on LinkedIn fairly actively, so we'll put your link to your LinkedIn profile below.
Lovely.
Listen, great conversation, covered a lot of ground. Love the models. Maybe we can find a way to link to the graphics of those or whatever underneath. I'm sure we can. For those of you, listen, as we like to say here on the Grown Up Business Podcast, keep going, keep growing. We'll see you on the next show. That concludes this episode of the Grown Up Business Podcast. I hope that got you fired up and ready to grow. The key thing, though, is to remember you get paid on what you get done. So write down the top 3 actions from the show and make sure that you implement those in the next 72 hours. Hey, and while you're at it, make sure you click the links and the resources below this episode to claim free growth resources to help you build the business you desire and deserve. I'll see you on the next episode.